And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono.
And I'm your host, Chris.
And we're here to bring you the Week 14 slate preview. We've got all the games Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and the doubleheader Monday night games coming right to you here right now. Listen in for your start, sits, and sleepers. Let's get into it. All right, so let's start off with the first game on this 1 o'clock slate we want to talk about, and that's the Buccaneers versus the Falcons. This is a divisional matchup that has some implications because the Falcons are holding on to a thread in the division here, and the Buccaneers, I feel like, have the better firepower offensively. They just have been losing football games, and their schedule, I felt like, has been a little bit more difficult than the Falcons has, to be honest, at this point in the season. But here, you're going to start Baker Mayfield. You're starting Rachaad White. The Falcons have not fared well to the running back as of recent, and White has been playing pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, White's looked like the guy that everyone thought he wasn't going to be, right? And as compared to the counterpart on the other team, where everyone was drafting Bijan as a top 10 pick in fantasy, but Rachaad White looks to be an RB1, and he's been proving that both. And it hasn't looked pretty all the time, but he's between the receiving game and the rushing game. He's been really productive, especially the last 10 weeks. I mean, you look, it's been back until like week 3 where he's had like a really disappointing performance. Everything else, he's been really, really solid and consistent. That's what you're looking at. Yeah, is he your RB1? Probably not, but is he going to be your every week starter at the RB2? Hell yeah. Like, roll with it and keep rolling with it because he was slept on early in the season. I got to rep my guys, over here. Go Sun Devils. Rachaad White's that guy. Brandon Ayuk is that guy. They're him, as the Utes would say. So you got to keep rolling with them.
Here's the thing.
A lot.
This team doesn't do anything pretty anyway. They just get it done. These are lunch pail hard hat type of football players here. Mike Evans, not the fastest guy on the field, but he is looking good on the field. Baker Mayfield, not the prettiest quarterback on the field, but he's getting the job done. And that's the same thing with Rachaad White. And I like this team to come here and upset the division leading Falcons.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is my biggest knock in the offseason was thinking that Mike Evans was not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, and he's proved me wrong. And I'll eat my words on that one. But Mike Evans has looked great this season. He continues every week to be just a ball hog, a guy that's just going to win one-on. He's just a man playing with boys out there. Is what he is.
It's true.
He just seems to be hyper targeted, and the biggest hit to it has been Chris Godwin, and I know he scored the touchdown, the rushing touchdown last week, but
we lost Chris for a second there. But I will say, go ahead. You're frozen, but you're back. But to finish what you're saying is like Godwin has taken the hit. But listen, I'll let you eat your words and admit that on a live podcast here. But I do want to say is you weren't wrong about your analysis of why. Your analysis was that Baker Mayfield hasn't sustained 2,000-yard receivers each, and we thought Godwin was going to be the main guy there in the shorter targets. It's been the opposite. It's been Mike Evans getting it all. And you're right, though, is Godwin is not sustained as a second receiver. He can't sustain 2 top receivers on an offense, and it's true. So we still have. That's why we have caution on Godwin in this game. It's like Evans is going to get Evans done. Godwin could maybe find himself in the end zone. We have a sleeper for K. Dotton here.
The Falcons haven't fared well against tight ends as of late, and I like K. Dotton was a complete disappointment last week. This week, I think he's going to bounce back. Someone's got to step up and be the second pass catcher. It can't all go to Evans, especially in a divisional game where they're going to probably try to shut him down. So someone else is going to have to really get open. And K. Dotton has been the guy, a reliable target for Baker this year. So I think he's going to go back to him this game. I like him as a sleeper, as a top 12 tight end finish this week.
And we also like this defense. I think this defense is a little banged up. They have been giving up a more pass funnel type of defense, but we're talking about the Falcons who don't pass the ball well. So you're a defense that gives up more against the pass, but doesn't against an offense that can't pass the ball well, but a defense that's done against the run, against a good rushing offense. I think these are going to cancel each other out, and I think the better team is going to win in terms of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So let's go on to the Falcons. You could see why we think the same thing. We're not starting Ritter. We're not starting anybody else really besides Bijan Robinson. I do like Drake London this game here. I think he's been playing pretty well. He's maturing as a receiver, and Ritter's going to have to throw the ball, and I think he's the only one he's going to be able to throw it to. I saw a stat.
Well, I this game.
Yeah, but listen, I said the same thing. No Dean earlier in the season. Well, maybe it's because the receiver was on my team, but they still shut down my guy. I can't remember which receiver it was, but there was no Dean, and I was psyched about that, and it was pathetic. But I will say Kyle Pitts, I saw a stat pop up there, and I don't remember where I saw it, so I can't give the credit out, and I don't know the exact off the top of my head, but he has under like 2 yards per separation. It's like 1.4, 1.5 yards per separation. That's terrible. Like, you're talking about premier wide receivers being up in the 4+ yards per separation on their routes. Kyle Pitts is just not getting open. And so I think he's going to throw to Drake London a little bit more here.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers have been very good against tight ends. And so I know Kyle Pitts is not like other tight ends, but then again, he's not really like other tight ends either. So
he's not like the other tight ends.
Yeah, he's not the other tight ends. I don't like him in this game. I don't like the matchup for him. I like Drake London as the guy that's going to be getting receptions. I do think they're going to give up some yards in this game. I don't see them winning this game, and I don't see them getting blown up. Like, if they're going to give up anything, it's going to be on the run. Atlanta's been really good at running the ball. This is what we've said in the beginning of the season. Now, with all three of them healthy, we're seeing this come to life. Is that, yeah, Bijan's good. Bijan is the best running back in that backfield. But now Cordell Patterson's healthy, and look how many touches he's gotten in the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Look at Algier getting reps in there. So it's just work that's getting taken away from Bijan, which is why we said in the preseason that he has no ability to finish as an RB1, even though his talent level is there. It wasn't like Saquon. It wasn't like Zeke coming into a team where they had no one else. Like, there were other guys here that were effective. Algier's been effective this year. Cordell Patterson the last 2 weeks has been effective. And so I would put caution on all three of these guys, although I do really like Bijan in this game, and I do think that Algier is a sleeper for this game as well.
Yeah. And Bijan, and we're saying this in standard scoring leagues, Bijan is a fringe RB1. He's RB12 on the season. So if you think about it that way, yeah, he probably would have been somebody's RB1. And if you went all running backs in the first round of your drafts, he's an RB1. But that's not how it works. That's not how we do things. I mean, you have quarterbacks that sometimes go, you have Kelsey that goes, you've got wide receivers that goes. So when it comes down to it, is he in the top 7 running backs to call himself an RB1? No, he's not. And we didn't think so either. We thought he was second round talent in terms of the draft, second, third round talent, and he's proving it. He is at times great. He's been a top 10 guy. He's been as high as RB3 before, but he's been as low as RB21, RB23, RB35, RB57, barring the fact that I think he left early with an injury there. But you see what I'm saying? The
game that they didn't play him and give him a snap.
He had 1 carry for 3 yards. So that's why we don't like that here. When we're not starting this defense, even though they've been pretty good and stingy the past couple of games, they haven't been fantastic. They're not a top premier defense. There's a lot better streamers out there, and there's some matchups that you want to try to exploit, i.e. the Packers versus the Giants, Dolphins versus Titans, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the Bears-Lions. This one I'm looking forward to because it was an exciting matchup the last time they faced off against each other a couple weeks ago. And that was, Thanksgiving. It was one of those ones that I really, really, really think Justin Fields, too, was a little handicapped with that thumb, coming off that dislocated thumb that he only threw for 169 yards. He ran for over 100. This is a situation where I think they could unload a little bit more through the air against this pass-friendly defense of the Lions. So Justin Fields we have as a start. Chris wants to caution him. I can't blame him because you don't know what you're going to get out of Justin Fields. Are you going to get 40 points or are you going to get 18? You don't know.
I mean, listen, the last time they faced on Thanksgiving, he had 104 rushing yards, but only had 22 fantasy points.
Yeah, he only had 2 touchdowns.
So I like him.
Sorry, one.
He had 1 passing touchdown in this game. I like him in this game. I just don't know how much what's the upside? And that's my caution on him is what's the upside? Is if you're looking to start him or another quarterback with a really good matchup, like say him or Tua, right? I'm starting Tua over him, right?
But look at another quarterback. Like, are you starting Pat Mahomes over him in a game against Buffalo where the Chiefs' offense hasn't looked that great?
Yeah, I am. They're playing the Bills. It's going to be electric. I'm starting Pat Mahomes in that game. No Pacheco, so they might go passing.
It's true. No Pacheco.
Like
you're starting Jordan Love over him.
I'm sorry, Jordan. Anyone against the Giants over him. I'm starting him over Derek Carr. If Derek Carr goes, here's an interesting one: you starting him or Dobbs against the Raiders?
Listen, the only thing I have to say here is Justin Fields is playing for his career right now.
I think that's being blown out of proportion.
I think it is too, but I'm saying it is almost a tryout right now for him. And if he's not going to leave it all on the field, the guy doesn't deserve to be a starting quarterback.
I think he's going to listen. I would start him with the caution on. I think his ceiling is always going to be there with his rushing upside, or his floor is going to always be there with the rushing upside. But what's his ceiling like? And that's where where people drafted him was to be an elite quarterback that's going to go and win you weeks, and he just hasn't been that. And even
how many games has he officially played? Was it 7 official games or 8 official games? Like not counting the one that he left early either. Against
he's not throwing up stats like he was last year.
3, 4, 5. So he's played 7 full games. He's been QB1, QB3, QB8. And QB8 was against Detroit. He had 23.1 points in our scoring system. But he's been 15, 20, 24, and 24. So he's fallen outside the top 23 out of the 4 times he wasn't in the top. In 29, but that was the game he left early. And he was 15 in week 1 against Green Bay. So, like he's there. But he also have 35 or 40 point ceiling for him, which is not many quarterbacks in this league can do that.
Right.
So, it's a good caution. I agree. It's a good caution. I'm throwing up a Hail Mary in our league.
You're starting him. Like, if you have him, you're starting him.
Here's the thing. If I had Kirk Cousins still healthy on our league, I'd be playing Kirk Cousins comfortably over him this week.
But you don't.
No, neither does anybody else who own Kirk Cousins. We are sitting Khalil Herbert. We weren't happy with his performance this past week, and Deontay Foreman is healthy, and I think Deontay Foreman is going to reclaim his starting role, at least to start the game, and we'll see how they switch him in and out. Because I also think Roschon Johnson, we have him as a sleeper, has a role in this offense. He's proven it. He's a good pass-catching back, too.
Yeah, I did a short on this a couple weeks ago when Khalil Herbert came off the IR, and I said that this backfield was going to be an absolute mess. And it is. It's an absolute mess. All of them are getting, you look at Roschon, and Roschon, had 6 carries last game? Khalil Herbert had 16. Deontay Foreman had 6 and the touchdown. It's just it's something I don't want. I really don't like. I don't like being part of this backfield. If I like any of these guys, it's Foreman, Roschon, Khalil Herbert. That's how I'd rank them.
Okay.
So and I only like that because if they get down to the goal line, if they get into the red zone, it's going to be Foreman. It's not going to be a Khalil Herbert, and it's not going to be Roschon.
No, I like Foreman, Roschon, Herbert in that order.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this team runs the ball. They had that one big game that Herbert had 100-something yards, or maybe 2 in a row, but they don't run the ball that well this season. They just haven't been able to.
I mean, Foreman's been good when he was the solo back, but again, that was without Justin Fields, without the running quarterback,
exactly,
and without Khalil Herbert, without Roschon Johnson.
I'm sorry, I should have prefaced my comment that with Justin Herbert at the helm, Fields. Herbert's the only one that has been able to run the ball over 100 yards those couple games. And it was just feeding him, and that's it. But, I mean, here's the thing. you're not starting one of these guys comfortably because you just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to get this. Like Foreman could get the start in the first series, and then he could just be shelved, and it could be Herbert. Herbert could be the one who gets the receptions like he did last game, and not Roshan Johnson. Like we just don't know how it's going to go. And against the Lions defense that traditionally this season has been pretty good against the run, I don't feel comfortable in a team that hasn't been amazing with the run, especially when Justin Fields is there, because they're looking to just air the ball out. And speaking of airing the ball out here, DJ Moore, start. I mean, the guy has been fantastic. He's had a wide receiver 1 finish, 2 wide receiver 7 finishes, and even in a game last week, he didn't have a touchdown. He still had 114 yards receiving, and even late in the game, like he's good for those big chunk yardage plays, and that's why I like him.
And there's no one else there other than Kmet that's catching passes. Exactly.
Those are the two. That's our 2 pass catching starters.
Yeah.
This team, Bears team, you have 2 top 5 picks right now. They can earn themselves. Well, who knows if Marvin Harrison Jr. enters the draft, but getting a big receiver out of this draft could help this offense immensely. I think it would be a waste, in my opinion, for them to go draft a quarterback and have to restart their whole offense.
I mean, me too. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in the offseason.
I had a conversation in the office about this. You're sitting in Chicago Bears defense. They have been playing pretty good defense as of late. They still let up points, though.
In the office, now that Georgia's not in the playoffs anymore, you have to talk about something, right?
Listen. All I'm going to say is I'm not going to say anything because it's a flawed system, okay? It's a flawed...
Yeah, Florida State didn't get in.
Yeah, it's a flawed system. And an 8 seed jumps to the 4 seed, and a 7 seed jumps to the 3 seed. And the 4 seed didn't even lose. I'm not even getting into it. I'm not even
and won the conference.
Yeah,
not just didn't lose, won the conference with a 3rd string quarterback.
And you get the Bulldogs, who lose 1 game in the hardest conference championship in college football, and they're knocked all the way to 6, not even to 5. You have to breathe like a bulldog. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Lions.
Let's talk about the Lions here. You got a lot of green on this lineup here, and that's because this Lions offense has been electric. They've been one of the most consistent offenses, I feel like, next to the Cowboys as of late, that you can trust these guys here. Jared Goff has been playing good football. He's putting up decent points even when he's coughing the ball up 4 times in a game. David Montgomery and Gibbs have been a good 1-2 punch, and especially against the Bears this last game, they both fared pretty well. Both scored a touchdown, so I like them both here. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's one of the top receivers in the league. He's going to get hyper-targeted by Goff when it's open, and Laporta, as of late, has proven himself to be a top 10 tight end in this league. And what was
top 10? He's probably top 2.
Well, what was our prediction?
For anyone else over him right now, the way he's playing.
Where is Kincaid in terms of tight ends? Is he is he right outside the top 10?
Kincaid is 14.
Okay. So our prediction preseason, my bold prediction was we'd have 2 rookie tight ends be in the top 10. Or did I say top 12? I can't remember. I thought I said top 10 finishers in fantasy. And we have 1 here in Sam Laporta. And Kincaid has a possibility still to get himself into that top 10 spot the last couple of weeks here. So it wasn't that bad of a prediction here, but I love this passing offense. I love this team. I wish I had a part of it. I really wanted Montgomery on my mock drafts in early season. Where he went was an in-betweener. I was up in the top of the picks, and he went later in the picks. But that being said, no picks I had were good. If I drafted Montgomery, he would have broke his leg, and it would have been, Chris knows. Probably. So, do you like one of these running backs over the other? Like if you're someone sitting there, do you have them both as RB2s?
That's the thing is we have a couple teams in this slate that we have a lot of green on, and there's a reason we have a lot of green on them. And I'll get this out of the way. And with the Lions, they have home run hitters all across their lineup. Mm-hmm. Sam Laporta can take a 70-yard, 5-yard catch and take it 70 yards. Amon-Ra can do that. Gibbs can do it, and Montgomery can do it. And Montgomery and Gibbs, the way they've been using them has really, they work really, really well together. Where it's not this like lightning and thunder kind of thing. They both do the same thing very similar together. They both can catch out of the backfield. They both can run up the middle. They both can break the big, long touchdown. And they both run hard. And you see them extending drives after contact and driving piles. So, yeah, I don't really know if I like one over the other. I tend to like the guy that gets more of the goal line work, which is David Montgomery. So I still think if they're, they really are a 1A, 1B at this point.
Mm-hmm. And it's like 1A, 1AB, 1BA. It's like pretty close at that point too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we don't have to say much more about the Lions here. Who do you like in this matchup coming out as the victor, Bears or Lions?
Lions. They're getting revenge for Thanksgiving. While we're on the Lions, did you see that the crime rate or the homicide
in
rate
Detroit
is the lowest it's been in 60 years, which coincidentally is the last time the Lions were 10-3.
It's not coincidentally.
It's not coincidental. Lions, keep winning. If you win, people don't die.
But yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Don't put that on him, Ricky Bobby.
People in Detroit don't die. Okay.
Let's go on the next matchup. Bengals Colts. This is going to be, this one would be a fun one to watch if it was Joe Burrow. I will say Jake Browning looked fantastic against the Jaguars. He did come in and do the situation he needed to do, and that was just move the ball and protect the ball. Don't cough it up. Don't throw picks. And I think he had a fantastic game. I expect a little bit of the same here against the Colts, who have been like mediocre, middle of the pack type of defense. They do get out to the quarterback, so Browning is going to maybe be a little bit more mobile throwing on the run, but obviously we don't trust the rest of his defense. Tyler Boyd is questionable. T. Higgins didn't look that great last week against the Jags. It really was Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon show. So those are the only two that we feel like starting here. And this Bengals defense has been banged up all season. In the past, we would have liked them, but they just haven't been able to do it. And the Colts are gunslingers when you have Minshew back there.
Yeah, and what they've been susceptible to is the run, which is what the Colts do very well. And so, yeah, the Colts. I think that the Bengals and the Browning story was nice, but they faced a secondary last week with the Jaguars and won that game barely against the secondary that was beat up. Mm-hmm. Like they were down, I think, to their top two corners in that game. The Colts are coming in, and that defense has been stingy. They've been the bend but don't break. They've gotten into shootouts. They've given up some big points, but they've also been in games and take the ball away and get after the quarterback. I mean, the Jaguars couldn't get after Browning last week. They couldn't get any kind of pressure against him. And they had 2 sacks in that game, but he had a lot of time in that pocket to throw. And he was making good decisions, but it helps when you have a guy like Jamar Chase break a 74-yard touchdown, right?
Yeah, and you got a guy like Joe Mixon that you literally can hit in the flat and he takes it for a first down.
Yeah, they schemed that game really well.
They did a very good job of that game, and he did get away from a lot of pressure and threw the ball away and made a couple, nice throws on the run. Like he's not a Peyton Manning type pocket passer. This guy can be a little bit more mobile. But let's talk about
here's what I do. I got to see it like one more week against a defense that's not banged up to really believe in it. Like,
agreed.
I know you fell into the Will Levis trap where he came out in his first game, throws for 4 touchdowns, shreds a defense, and then what does he do after that? So Browning comes in his first official start, shreds up a defense, plays really well. I think he's going to
Let's not forget he came in against the Ravens and didn't look that bad either.
No, he didn't look that bad.
Against a tougher defense. I mean, he didn't put up numbers, he didn't score a touchdown, but he didn't look that bad. Like he actually was able to move the ball a little bit, protected the ball. I think that's what makes a good quarterback coming off the bench and a good backup quarterback is ball protection. Don't give up the interceptions, don't fumble the ball, and know when to throw it away. And I think Browning has been one of the better of those that you've seen because he is protecting the ball in offense here, and he's using his weapons to his advantage.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's wait and see. That's why we have him as a sit. Let's move on to the Colts here. Minshew as a sleeper, Moss as a starter, Pittman as a starter. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I like those guys, and this is one of my top waiver wire picks, and we talked about it on Tuesday when in our episode that Alec Pierce is a guy that you can very much play. I like him as probably my favorite wide receiver sleeper of this week. He has been more involved in this offense the last 2 weeks. Josh Downs has regressed in terms of his production, and they need a number two. Again, this is going back to the same point that I said last week that Michael Pittman's, his target share is not sustainable, what he's doing. So Alec Pierce is going to step in. Alec Pierce should have had the bigger game last week. I mean, he gets tackled at the 1 yard line in overtime. He should have had, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns instead of the Pittman having the 1 touchdown and 100 yards. So Pierce has been involved. He's been looked to on the big play. I like Pierce over Downs. I still like Pittman. Like if I'm sitting there and this is a must-win game for me, and I've been struggling at wide receiver all season, this is a guy that he's available. He's only 8% owned, so he's available in a lot of leagues. Go and pick him up as a play this week. Do I like him for the rest of the season? Probably not, but I like him in this matchup.
Well, here's a question for you: do you like him better than any of the Green Bay receivers without Watson? Reed and Dobbs. That's a tough one. That's kind of where I'm sitting. They're kind of in that, like, I'm agreeing with you. I like Alec Pierce. I think he's going to be a good weapon this game here. But there's some better matchups close. Out there too.
They're pretty close. I would say that because Green Bay's playing the Giants, they're really I think that this has a chance to actually be a game, right? To where the offenses are staying on the field. Like Green Bay could blow out the Giants.
Mm-hmm. I do like Alec Pierce over even D Hop this week. Like if you're going to tell me against the Dolphins who to go for, I'd rather take a shot at Alec Pierce here.
Yeah, I mean I like Alec Pierce over another guy like your guy Noah Brown.
Oh yeah, I do too. I would go with that too. I just like
this week. Yeah, I mean I'm not playing that.
Yeah, I like him better than Chris Godwin.
I like him
better than that passing offense. I like him better than, let's see, who's in some of the ones we've talked about already. I like him better than T. Higgins. I like him better than. I
like him better than any of the Jaguars receivers.
Jaguars receivers right now. Yeah, I like him better than. I'd rather take a shot on him than Calvin Ridley in the game against the Browns.
I would too.
So let's move on from this match. Let's talk about the Browns and Jaguars. It's a good segue there.
It's a great segue. I had it planned.
So, in terms of Browns offense, we're going to say start Joe Flacco here. Caveat is if he's actually going to be the starter. Kevin Stefanski came out saying that DTR is actually out of concussion protocol, and we knew going into last game that if DTR, he was the starter if he was to come out of concussion protocol, and he didn't, Flacco started. They still lost. He had a fantastic game. He threw for 250, 2 touchdowns. He had a good game. But he was failed to name the starter in the press conference today. So that's a wait and see. We do like him there. This is kind of a tough one to wait and see if you're trying to stream a quarterback. If I were you, I'd go get Flacco if you want to stream him. But I'd also make sure you get someone like Gardner Minshew because I'd rather because to me, DTR is not a start if he's the starter.
There's a lot of caveats in this game. So Cooper is also Amari Cooper is also questionable in this game. So if Cooper doesn't go and Flacco is the quarterback, Elijah Moore is a start. And you should start him in all formats. He's going to get peppered. So PPR, he probably will have 8 or 9 receptions. If Amari Cooper is healthy and Joe Flacco is the starter, I don't like Elijah Moore as much because I think Amari Cooper is going to get peppered. He was on that path last week before he got concussed.
Correct.
So it all there's a lot. This is something we'll update. I'll do a short on this on Sunday morning before this game to have more details because we're filming this on Friday night. And as of right now, there is no starter that's been named. It's a hard one. You like the running back here. You like both Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford in this matchup. It's who else do we like? What's the passing going to be like? DTR, yeah, he's looked good. He's looked halfway decent as a passer, and he's looked better with each start that he's made. So I'm not going to knock him too much. But Flacco looked good against the Rams secondary. That
Well,
has
he spread the field. I mean, that's what Flacco did. DTR wasn't spread the field as much. He was out the pocket, and when that happens, that's the thing. The other caveat I'll say here is we have David Njoku as a sit with Flacco, and it was obvious. He only had 6 targets, 2 receptions. One may have been uncatchable. One was a definite easy catchable ball. And then he made one spectacular catch he shouldn't have made, too, on a high throw over his head. But DTR found him the 3 games before that, 9 targets, 15 targets, 9 targets, all high 50s in terms of yardage, and he had multiple end zone targets, too, as well. The reason it works out for Njoku is when you run out the pocket like DTR does, that closest receiver who ends up being Njoku half the time is coming back to your quarterback to try and make a play, and he's dumping it down to him. And they're trying to get the ball out of DTR's hands a little quicker. Flacco seemed way more comfortable in the pocket, slinging the ball downfield, and that just took away from David Njoku and the whole game plan that they used to have around him, which is why he's a sit for us.
Yeah. So a lot of caveats with this offense. Again, I'll do a short on this on Sunday morning when we have a little bit more clarification on who's going to go. Because whether it's Flacco or DTR, whether Cooper's in, there's too many question marks. Like we said, if Elijah Moore is highly owned, so if he's available, you can go and stash him for the off chance that if Flacco this could be an over 100-yard game with the touchdown if Flacco goes.
Yeah, I agree. He hyper targets one guy, and that's why we don't like anybody else. To me, Ford is the one running back that I like, and that's not me playing favorites. He has taken the reins on that passing down roll, and out the backfield, and you see him a lot in the 2-minute drills. Like Pierce Strong is done there with that portion of it all. He just sprinkles in here and there. Kareem Hunt has gotten a lot of the short and go type of roles, which could hurt in the goal line, but it didn't a couple weeks ago when Jerome Ford got the carries twice in a row at the 1-yard line. So I just think they're going to put their onus in Ford, and then Kareem Hunt's still going to have his opportunities, and he's running the ball well too. I just don't like him as much.
Yeah, and then on the other side of this game, and you're starting the Browns defense.
Yeah, you're starting the Browns defense, especially like if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go, you 100% are.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the ball, there's a lot of caveats too. ETN is questionable. It looks like he's probably going to go. Trevor Lawrence is questionable. We don't know if he's going to go. But they're listing him as questionable as of right now. This team is banged up. Kirk got put on IR today. The sleeper I like here, if Trevor Lawrence goes or if he doesn't go, the sleeper here is Parker Washington. I know a lot of people were and Jono and I talked about while we were prepping for this was that he likes Zay Jones, and I had to, kind of step up and say, hey, no, Zay Jones is not going to be moving to the slot. Like, if anyone's going to have increased production, it's going to be Evan Ingram. But I think that Parker Washington, the way he looked last week, I mean, he had some fantastic catches. He was getting separation. He was getting open, and they're throwing to him. I mean, how often do you see a guy come in with a backup quarterback that has to come in and still demand kind of yardage and targets that he was getting? So if it was my preference, I would sit all the receivers in this game. I think Evan Ingram is a good sleeper option only because, without Christian Kirk, those slot and short yardage receptions need to go somewhere. Evan Ingram has been that guy for them for the past 2 seasons where he's kind of picked up that slack. But with Parker Washington, I like him as a sleeper here, but I'm sitting Ridley. I'm sitting Zay Jones. And, if I were to go one of the other running backs other than ETN, if ETN doesn't go, then Dearness Johnson is a guy I do like.
Yeah, I do like Dearness Johnson too. We have a check mark here underneath the Jaguars defense, whether it's a mistake or not. Jaguars actually been pretty good at the past couple games, except for this Cincinnati game that they had on the past, what was it, Monday night? Was it Monday night or Sunday night? Yeah. So besides that, they've actually been pretty good, and they've been getting to the quarterback, getting sacks, causing turnovers. And the sheer fact of the matter is the Browns offense isn't that great. They're great at kicking field goals, I'll tell you that. But they haven't been great at scoring touchdowns without, with the fact that there's been a quarterback carousel there, a running back carousel there, injuries to the wide receivers on and off. So to me, I think it could be a sneaky streamer play is to play the Jags defense because they've been pretty good. And I think they're not going to let themselves get tripped up like they did this past Monday night against the Bengals. I think they just were not ready for that Bengals offense to put up the points they did.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next matchup. We got Saints and Panthers. This one's going to be an ugly one. This one I'm not looking forward to watching. We're sitting Derek Carr because, one, the Panthers have been stingy against the quarterback position and the passing game in general. But Derek Carr has been concussed twice this season already, is looking like he's going to be playing. However, he's got shoulder injuries. To me, he's a tough guy. He's the type of guy you want on your team, but you don't, because he's gritty and he's just good enough to keep himself there. But like I said preseason, if you go back and watch our episodes, what did I say about Derek Carr? He's a good NFL quarterback. He's good at pushing the ball downfield. He'll get you 4,000 yards, and he won't get you over 20 to 24 touchdowns. He's just not a good fantasy quarterback. Like, I don't knock him as a good quarterback because I think he is. He's what you want. He's like the epitome of what you want as a leader in that quarterback room there, and that team being as gritty and tough as he is and playing injured and all that. But he just isn't for fantasy, and that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, and like we said, or like we've kind of talked about this, is like there's sustainability there. There's weapons all around him, and he'll get the yardage, which is great for the fantasy player's perspective, right? It's great for Taysom Hill. It's great for Kamara. It's great for Olave. But the touchdowns just aren't there. And, I mean, he's getting touchdowns that are getting taken away from Taysom Hill going in there and throwing the ball. He's losing snaps. He's losing about 5 snaps a game from the quarterback position to Taysom Hill.
Let's not forget, this was the team we wanted to avoid offensively because of the numerous amount of people that are going to be involved in this offense. Yeah. And in one day, Kamara may be getting the touchdown, and the next day it's Taysom Hill, and then the next day it's Derek Carr, and then it's, now not Michael Thomas anymore, but Rashid Shaheed on an end around. So then all of a sudden Olave's not getting touchdowns. It just was a mess. Yeah. So we like Kamara here. Olave, we have a green check on as a starter here because it's hard to sit the main guy here because they have been given up to the main receiver. But I will say he is on the
main receiver. It's been premier receivers in the league. They've been torched on.
But
everyone else are kept in check. And listen, say what you want, but Olave is a premier receiver in this league, and he has a chance to get This is
well. Let me stop you before you go too far, because I'm putting a caution on it now, if not downgrading him, because he has been out the past 2 practices with flu-like symptoms and illness. So
Michael Jordan flu game.
Yeah, Michael Jordan flu. Yeah, Michael Jordan wasn't playing on a football field as a wide receiver. Not taking anything from Michael Jordan. I mean, basketball's not easy to do, but I'm just saying, Olave, I think if he's in there, I think he's got to have to feel 100% for you to feel 100% starting him.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill is another questionable guy here too as well. I forgot to put the questionables on here, but he's got a hand and foot injury. He's another tough guy that has an opportunity to still, if he's good enough to go, he's going. And I like him too, because just the sheer fact that Derek Carr is so banged up too.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, he's great. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he's been great. He surprised me this past week. Maybe it was the fact that he was playing against me in fantasy, or not against me, but he was who I needed to not score points for me to stay out of 11th place. And he scored points and made it very, very close.
10th place finisher.
Not yet. Wild card, baby.
Wild card, baby.
I am the wild card.
Wild card, baby.
Wild card, baby. But he has actually taken the lead role.
That's Charlie Day.
I should change my name to Wild Card. Chuba Hubbard has definitely taken over the backfield here. He's been the more consistent rusher. He's been healthier, obviously, than Sanders. He's been the only shining bright point of this Panthers offense. So
as of late.
As of late. But I mean, we're not trusting, as you can see, anybody here, not even Thielen. I do like Mingo as a sleeper because his snap percentage has gone up. His route participation has been much bigger, and he's been getting the targets too. But again, I don't trust this Panthers passing attack as much as I trust the rushing game here. So,
yeah, and I like Chupa Hubbard in this game, and that's pretty much it. I know Jono has Mingo as a sleeper. I am not too fond of any of these pass catchers right now. Last week, Adam Thielen really let me down. I know the volume has kind of been there for Mingo, but they're just not getting it done. They're not getting it done through the air, and it's been the offense other than the rushing attack looks just ugly out there, and no one's getting open. No one's really getting separation. The big play ability is not there. I mean, Chark had a big play downfield, gets tackled. Chuba Hubbard pushes it in, and so the receivers just they're not getting it done.
Yeah. Well, the reason I like it is rookie receivers late in the season. Offenses want to see what they got in these guys too, especially an offense like the Panthers. Is like, what do they got to lose at this point? Nothing. Let's see what we got in our Mingo. Let's see what we got in Bryce Young in that connection.
I mean, if anything, they want to spoil it for the Bears.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Well, speaking of letdowns, let's talk about the Jets.
Just wait till we get to the Giants. Baby.
I know. Well, that's more than a letdown. Because not only were they terrible in letting me down, then they let me down when they gave up one of the top picks because they started winning games. But the Jets here, Zach Wilson is back at the helm as a starter. We're sitting Breece Hall. He's dealing with an ankle injury here too. Plus, the Texans have actually been decent enough against the run and the pass. It's not this big game. They've been giving up more yardage through the air, but Breece Hall and this offense haven't been good. And I'll let Chris talk about this offense because it's his team and he watches them religiously.
Well, this is going to be an ugly game, and the next game that we are going to talk about with the Ravens and the Rams, one of the next games that we're going to talk about between the Ravens and the Rams,
it's the next game. Yeah,
is just they're going to be ugly. It's going to be 90% chance of downpour, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. It's going to be chilly. It's just going to be a mess out there. Listen, I think that, when we first talked, if the weather was clear, I'd say Zach Wilson is potentially a sleeper. And I know you guys are all laughing and being like, you freaking idiots. But no, I mean, like, Zach Wilson has had bright spots out there. He's looked good at times. And this is a game that they can win. The Texans have been letting up a ton of passing yards. A ton. And not
except
great
last week.
Except last week to Russell Wilson. But they've been letting up a lot of yards through the air recently. And to not great quarterbacks either. Mm-hmm. They have the weapons in New York. They're still figuring some things out. The offensive line has been the travesty. At this point, I mean, Garrett Wilson is probably the only guy you can start because he's going to get probably 8 or 9 targets. And if they're anywhere close to the red zone, you know that they're probably going to go to him 2 out of the 3 plays that they're down there before they kick a field goal, because this offense can't score in the red zone. But Breece Hall at this point is a sit. Like, he's not doing anything. And this, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. Like, he's had one 20-point fantasy week this year, or two 20-point fantasy points.
Well, he relies on the home run. He relies on the big play. That's why.
But what I was going to say is both those games he had a 50-plus yard touchdown.
Yep.
So if that's the only way he's getting in, it's not like they're getting down to the 2-yard line and punching it in. Like, they're barely getting down to the 20, let alone the goal line. So it's not like he's even having the opportunity for goal line work. So at this point, like, you can't start him. Even though in a bad weather game, you should start your running backs. That's a great position to start your running backs. Not here.
Well, here's what I will say. We're starting the defense, obviously, here. I do want to, the more I thought about it, too, I do like Tyler Conklin. He could be a sneaky play. To me, he's not sneaky enough to consider a definite streamer, but don't be surprised in a bad weather game here. And the check downs that Zach Wilson's going to end up having to do, that he could get himself plenty of targets, because these again, we just talked about the running backs here, not getting the job done. They're not getting passes that much off the backfield, and they're just not making the plays that I think the Jets are going to just push downfield. What does Zach Wilson have to lose again? Starting role again? I mean, come on.
being cut from the team after this year.
Yeah, somebody will sign him. I'm not worried about that. If I'm him, I'm not worried about that. Start anew. Let's move on to the Texans team here. Surprise, surprise, we are sitting C.J. Stroud. This is going to be an ugly game. The Jets are one of the best against the quarterbacks, if not the best against the quarterback. And they are Jets. Not like the Jets are a premier offense either, or a surging offense right now. They're on the other end of that. And Dameon Pierce we have as another sit. Singletary's the running back that we're willing to start here. Pierce did get back to some early down roll. He did have the touchdown in that game last week, but he still had a low yards per carry. He still had low touches. It is a shared backfield there, and I think Singletary out the backfield may be the better option too as well. Nico Collins, we're saying start with caution. You want to ride the back of that giant game he had this past week, but it could be a big letdown game. He could be 50 yards and no touchdown easily against these D-backs and in this weather too on top of that.
I mean, in last week, the Jets let up to the wide receiver or against the corners in man-to-man coverage. All three of the corners for the Jets, DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, and Michael Carter, they were just lights out. I mean, Sauce had one target, 1 catch, 1 yard against him. I think DJ Reed had 1 target, 1 catch, 14 yards against him. Like they're just not allowing anything down the field. So the tight end is where they've been more susceptible. So if Schultz plays, great, fire him up.
Yeah, we have him to sit just because we don't know we don't think he's going to play.
Brevin Jordan is a guy that could be a really sneaky pick this week, right? But I think that they're going to beat the Jets on the ground, and this is going to be another one of those ugly games. I don't see the Jets getting completely just blown out. Like they're going to lose this game because it's the Jets, right? Or who knows? They beat the Eagles. They're as good as the 49ers, right?
This is one of those situations too with the weather, and it's not in favor of kicking. It's not in favor of passing. It's in favor of the ground game. But you're talking about two teams that haven't been able to run well on the ground that often. So, I mean, yeah, Singletary's had a couple big time games, which is why we like him, and they may lean on him that way. And he's better on the getting on the outside rather than running to the middle. But I don't know. It's going to be low scoring, ugly game. I agree. But I said that again about Thursday night's game, and look at that. So,
yeah.
Let's move on to the Rams.
All that scoring happened in like the first 7 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's a good point.
First quarter and a half,
and then it was ugly after that.
Yeah.
Rams Ravens here. So
another ugly game.
Ugly game in Baltimore. Bad weather against the Baltimore defense. We only feel comfortable with Kyren Williams because he has a role in the passing game too as well. That helps. And he's been pretty good against tough defenses on the ground at times. And then Puka is the only one that we have some sort of comfort level. We were sitting there talking about, we had Cooper Kupp and Puka as starts, but both of us didn't like two receivers coming out of this game with advantageous numbers for your fantasy team. So which one do we like more? Well, I think it's Puka. He's got the size, he's getting the separation, he's got the ability to do that, and he has been fantastic with the ball after the catch. That's one thing that Cooper Kupp hasn't been this season when healthy, is yards after the catch as much as Puka has been.
Yeah, a lot of Cooper Kupp stuff have been like the out routes where 6 or 7 yard catches, and he's been just having to run out of bounds, right? Like he's not really getting a lot of chances to kind of break one downfield, and he's not getting the slants across the middle where he has open field in front of him where he can run. Mm-hmm. He's really going towards. He's great on the sideline catches. He always has been. And that's where they're really using him, where they're using like Puka into that role where they're getting him into space or getting him in the downfield shots. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't, I'm saying Puka is better than Kupp. I've actually said when we were kind of debating this that like I would probably lean like this might be a Kupp game in this one.
Could be.
But Puka, you have to go by what they've been doing. And Puka's the guy that Stafford has been throwing to. But this is not a game we like in terms of passing anyway. Again, it's going to be the same conditions as the Jets, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. Stafford's looked really good in the last couple of weeks, but I think Kyron's going to get a bulk of that work. With Higbee out, who's going to step up and kind of be that next guy, the next guy up who's going to eat up those targets.
Could be Tutu on the short routes. It could be some end around runs with him, some small bubble screens.
It could be more to Kupp on the other side, and Kupp.
You never know.
Could have games. So, but Puka is the only one I really feel safe about in this with Kyron.
Yep. Let's move on to the Ravens here. If you feel safe starting Lamar Jackson, his rushing upside gives him a high floor. Caution Gus Edwards here. This could be a tough one for him because the Rams are pretty good running defense, rush defense. But we like Keaton Mitchell because if he gets out on the outside, that speed, it kills. And I like the ability for him to get outside those defensive ends and make a cornerback mix, make a D-back miss, and he's gone. And he has the ability to do that Gus Edwards doesn't at this point.
Right.
We are not comfortable with any of the pass catchers here. One, because of the weather, but two, they just haven't shown it. They're not going to be able to throw those bombs downfield to Zay Flowers that easily. And really, Isaiah Likely may be the guy that benefits the most here against a defense that doesn't fare that well against the tight end in terms of the Rams. And the shorter passes and the over the middle passes that Lamar may be trying to hit are going to be going to Isaiah Likely. I do like a little bit of revenge game of Odell Beckham Jr., but not enough to actually start him. Like he may have a couple of those big catches and go for 60 yards on 3 catches, but it's not one of those ones where
if this was in LA, I would be on board with that.
Yeah, different weather, but that makes me love the Baltimore defense more. Is the fact that they're a tough defense, they're a good defense, and it's bad weather. They're made to be between the trenches, so I fire those Ravens defense up.
Yeah.
All right, on to another purple team. The Minnesota Vikings. We're starting everybody here except KJ Osborne, and that's because Justin Jefferson is back. To what extent, we shall see, but he is playing. I don't think they're going to have any restriction on him. By extent, I mean, what's he going to look like with Josh Dobbs? We knew what he looked like with Kirk Cousins. They also threw the ball a hell of a lot more with Kirk Cousins. I am interested to see how this offense runs. Chris and I differ in the fact that he likes Jordan Addison this game. I don't. I would if Kirk Cousins was the quarterback, because we obviously know Jordan Addison had 4 touchdowns in the first 5 games, I think it was, and with Justin Jefferson there too as well, or he had 3 in the first 4 with Justin Jefferson there. So obviously he's a trusted wide receiver, but are you banking on the fact that he's going to get off coverage from Jefferson? Yeah. Is that what you're banking on?
They're going to double Justin Jefferson, right? They're going to have to. He's that, like, I think. Again, he's been out for 8 weeks now. Mm-hmm. I think people are forgetting that he's going to command coverage there. So
he's very good.
Do you like Jordan Addison one-on-one in man coverage?
Yeah, I do. I love Jordan Addison one-on-one. I liked it before when it was just him. So
yeah. So I mean, I think you gotta like that. I think Dobbs is a smart enough quarterback to know that he's going to have that on the other side, and he's not forcing balls in like Kirk Cousins was. Right, Kirk Cousins was just shoving the ball to Justin Jefferson, double coverage or not. I don't think Dobbs has that relationship with him. Dobbs is going to try to win games, especially after the bad performance that he had in the last game that they had. Yeah. That he's going to bounce back and he's going to play smart football. I like this game for Madison as well. Mm-hmm. I even though Madison has been really subpar this season as his first official, bell cow back there. Ty Chandler is going to get some touches here or there, but it's the Madison show. Even though it hasn't been pretty, like he's had effective games, and I think this is a game that they could be effective. The Raiders they defensively, it looks like Max Crosby is going to be back, but they stink against the run, against the pass.
Well, Dobbs is a mobile enough quarterback that he's not going to be swallowed up by Max Crosby, and he's not running for his life every play.
Right. So they're going to move the sticks on the Raiders. I think the Vikings come out and really shove it to the Raiders, but yeah,
you're starting Hawkinson obviously here, and you're starting this defense. I think this defense has been playing well. Now let's go back to Hawkinson. Do you think Hawkinson takes a hit too in this one? Do you think you drop him down in terms of who you would start over him?
No. Who are you going to start over Hawkinson?
It's true. I'm just saying. I mean, I just think, does Josh Dobbs have the volume that? Because don't forget, he runs the ball himself a lot too. He's not trying to shove a ball in like you said. So you take 15 passing attempts away from this offense when those three guys were actually firing on all cylinders early in the season with Kirk Cousins. Somebody's going to, it's almost like the Brock Purdy situation. Somebody's going to take a back seat to two other guys.
I mean,
that's how I feel.
Why can you not like that Addison gets in, has 40 yards and gets in for a touchdown? Why do you not like the fact that like Kittle can get in for a touchdown with 50 yards? Like,
yeah, it's true. You could, but there's also times where they could go for 30 yards and nothing because of big playability between the other guys. I mean, are you starting Addison over top of those Green Bay wide receivers? Or are you starting Addison over top of some of the other wide receivers that we were mentioned earlier? Like, do you like Addison over Jamar Chase this week?
No.
Do you like Addison over Nico Collins this week?
Yes.
Do you like Addison over Cooper Kupp this week? And
Yes.
And Puka?
Yes.
Okay. Got
It's a domed game. It's indoor, not in a crappy weather game.
It's true.
So I'll take those guys over them. I would say Alec Pierce is a guy that is probably right there with Addison. I'd probably start Alec Pierce over Addison, as well. But he's still a solid play. And again, this goes back to what you were saying when you asked me about Alec Pierce. Would I start him over the Green Bay receivers? Yeah, I might, because the Green Bay doesn't need to do much to beat the Giants. I know they've been playing decent football the last 2 weeks, but
it's true.
A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones can handle it. And then does Jordan Love need to throw? Does he need to shoot it out? Is he playing Patrick Mahomes on the other side where he needs to throw for 303 touchdowns?
No, not with that defense too. Maybe shutting down the Giants' offense. So
right.
I agree. We'll talk about that game in a bit. Let's talk about the Raiders here. We're sitting Aiden O'Connell. We're starting Jacobs just because of his involvement in the passing game too as well. Starting Devontae Adams and sleeper Jacoby Myers, because I think this team's going to have to pass the ball at some point. We don't like anybody else here. Don't like the defense. Don't like the tight ends. Don't even like Aiden O'Connell that much, because this defense is going to pressure the hell out of him. So you're just going to start the studs in this one. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and Myers, just because they have had multiple receivers go off in the same game, and they're going to have to pass the ball. I mean, I think they're going to be behind in this game. So you're going to see some late game, garbage time. And hey, you don't care if it's the last play of the game or the first.
There's no such thing as garbage time in fantasy. Garbage time in fantasy is actually like shine time to me. It's sunshine.
I love that.
Yeah.
When I have a pass catcher and my team's down 21 points, I love it.
I love it too. Let's move on to another game here that we are interested to see, that we are doing the opposite and starting almost everybody on this team, and that's the 49ers versus the Seahawks. 49ers are going to be facing a banged-up Seahawks team and offense on top of that. So I like start your studs here. You start Purdy, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. Oh, wait, they're all studs. This whole offense. If you got one, start them.
It's the same thing as the Vikings. Like, who do you sit here? Like, you're not gonna sit these guys.
No, I agree.
Like, who are you gonna sit Ayuk for? Who are you, like, again, Debo, like, look at the games that he's put together now. They're involving him a lot more. This offense is churning. And I think that, and I said last week when they played the Eagles, I was like, they're out for blood on that game.
Well, yeah, that for sure.
They're out to prove a point. And
but this could be another one too.
Everyone got involved, and Debo was the one that was getting chirped at the most. So obviously he showed up.
Listen, if Geno Smith doesn't go, and the running backs are questionable too, and you get a situation, it can mimic the Green Bay Giants game where they can just get up, and then Eli Mitchell starts running the ball in there, and then Sam Darnold's out there.
It could be. But look at the last time Sam Darnold came into a game. Everyone still got theirs. That was the game that literally Debo scored, Ayuk scored, Kittle scored, McCaffrey had over 100 all-purpose yards but didn't get in. Like,
yeah, I like everybody here. I'm not arguing this one. This is 100. I'm just I'm throwing hypotheticals out there.
If Geno doesn't go, use Check as a sleeper.
Yeah, there you go. San Fran defense is a go no matter which way it goes.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Seahawks offense because Geno's questionable. We're not starting him even if he does start because it is a growing injury. He's got the elbow injury, and it's a tough defense. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet both questionable. Looking like Charbonnet most likely not going to go with that knee bruise fresh off that game there. Kenneth Walker was close to playing last week, so he could possibly play this week, but you don't love it against the Niners. DK is the only one I have any comfort level of starting here because Drew Lock's going to come in. He's got a cannon. He's a gunslinger. He's going to want to hit Metcalf deep, and he's going to try it multiple times, and he's going to catch a couple. I mean, he's going to do something. So I like Metcalf, and then I do agree with Chris here on the Jackson Smith and Jigba sleeper over Tyler Lockett as a sit because of the fact that he's a rookie wide receiver. We start to see those rookie wide receivers really pick up speed and pick up pace and start to get these offenses late in the seasons. And he's been good. He's been open.
And is it me or is Tyler Lockett looking like abnormally like he's just dropping normal passes?
He's dropped a couple like easy ones for himself.
For a guy that was so sure-handed his entire freaking career, like in the last couple of weeks, he's had some bad drops where he like could have had productive weeks with those catches.
Correct.
And it's just hit him or he's been late to turning around. Let me ask you this question. If Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker don't go, based on volume alone, do you like DJ Dallas?
No, because they're not gonna. It's not gonna be volume. It's gonna. It's not gonna be volume.
Same boat.
Yeah, right. It's not gonna be volume. But if Kenneth Walker goes, it could be volume. But I just don't think DJ Dallas is gonna be a volume guy. He'll get some passes out the backfield here and there, but it's gonna be a full-on passing offense at that point. Yeah. They may throw the ball 50 times that game.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Bills Chiefs. This is going to be a fun game to watch here. Let's talk. We obviously are starting Josh Allen. This Chiefs defense, who's been pretty good all season, has had 2 back-to-back weeks of duds and given up points. I like Josh Allen here. They're in a must-win situation, and their backs are against the wall. And to me, that's a scary place for this Bills offense to be. We've seen it before. I like James Cook here, again, because this Chiefs defense has been letting up to the running backs here and there, and James Cook has taken the lead role in this running back backfield. As long as he holds onto the ball, he will keep that for then. And Chris and I were both talking. We think Stephon Diggs is the perfect opportunity to sit him here against L'Jarius Sneed because he will shadow him the majority of the game.
If you're in a must-win game this week, and you're a Stephon Diggs owner, and you have other options, I would go and play those other options. This is a week where, like, you know, you look at last week and last year, and the first 10 weeks of the season, he was averaging 17.5 points a game. He had the same average on pace this year. Weeks 11 on. So far this year, he's been around 4.7 fantasy points per game. Same pace as last year, where he finished the season 4.7 points over the last 7 weeks of the season. He's trending downward, and Gabe Davis and Shakir are trending upwards. So this is a perfect game where you're saying, I don't like the matchup. I don't like the usage. I know he's a stud. I know he's been really productive, but I don't like it. And
well, here's the thing. In the past 3 games they played against Kansas City, that includes the divisional round, he has been terrible except for 1 game. And that was last year's game against Kansas City, who had a terrible secondary compared to this year's, where he was wide receiver 2 on the week. He was 10 for 13 for 148 and a touchdown. But that 2021, when you had a good secondary for Kansas City, which is what we see here, he had 2.7 points on 6 targets, and he had, during the regular season, 6.9 points on 5 targets. Like, he could be taken out of a game. That's the thing I don't like about him.
Not can be. He has been.
Yeah, he has been taken out of a game.
Do that. So I don't like him this week. I'm going to say go ahead and start Gabe Davis if you have him. I think he's in for a really good week this week. Even Shakir, I think, is a good sleeper option this week. I still like James Cook. I think he's going to have a good game. This Chiefs defense has been reeling a little bit. And Josh Allen, this is a must-win game for the Bills.
Correct.
It's a must-win. They can't slip.
That's what I'm saying. So I think they're gonna do what they do best here. Let's talk about the Chiefs offense, who's also slipping a little bit here and there. Pat Mahomes hasn't looked that great. They have been leaning on the run more than they have in the past because they can. Pacheco's been running the ball fantastic all year. Well, he's out. So now they're going to have to lean on either CEH or Mahomes is going to have to start throwing the ball a little bit more. And I'm just wondering how this offense is going to pair. I mean, there's a reason why we only have 3 greens on here. We have Pat Mahomes, we have Travis Kelce, we have Rashee Rice. And I know you may have a sleeper for CEH. I have a sleeper for Jerick McKinnon. I'll let you have the floor and talk about CEH, and I'll talk about McKinnon.
Well, I just think the way that this offense is running right now, and the way they've been running this offense all year, has been around running the football. And if you're going to go and say, here's a pure runner, right? It's been CEH. I know like his opportunity hasn't been there this year. I know his usage and his production haven't really been there this year, but there's no Pacheco. So he's going to get volume back there. And even if McKinnon goes, McKinnon's coming off and nursing injuries. And McKinnon's not really a between the tackles kind of guy, which is what this offense is set up to run.
Correct.
So, yeah, do I like McKinnon as kind of like a dink and dunk out of the backfield? Yeah, but like, are they going to switch this entire offense up? Remember, when McKinnon was productive, Eric Bieniemy was calling the plays. Eric Bieniemy's not there anymore.
It's true.
And so this offense switched up this year. We've seen a complete shift in the offense where they're not letting Patrick Mahomes drop back there and just wheel and deal. They've been really calculated on how they've been running this offense. Run the football, take your shots downfield. Run the football, take your shots downfield.
Well, and it's worked up to a point, and this is the reason why I like McKinnon a little bit. And listen, this could fall flat on my face with this assumption and this sort of breakdown. But if you look back last year, weeks 13 to 18, you did call Bieniemy was there, but he had a couple games early in the season where he got some, 8 targets, but he was sitting around like 1 to 4 targets, which is what he's sitting around this year too when he's playing the game, because Pacheco was getting targets out the backfield. Now he's not there. But you look at weeks 13 to 18. In week 13, he only had 2 targets, caught both, and one of them happened to be a touchdown. 9 targets, 8 targets, 3, 6, 3, but he had a total of 9 touchdowns in those final 6 weeks. And the reason why he had that is because they struggled to get the ball into the end zone on the ground when they were in the red zone. And I think they're going to with just CEH there. I think they're going to have to lean on McKinnon and Kelce here in that red zone area, out the flat, around the corner, screen pass, whatever it may be to get in the end zone. That's why I like McKinnon more. Not over the total usage. Yeah, it's a Hail Mary, home run hoping for a touchdown, but I think that the opportunity would be there.
I would agree with you, except this year what they're doing is they're giving those opportunities to Rashee Rice.
Oh, yeah, I'm not taking that away from Rashee Rice, which is why you start.
We like Rashee Rice is like he's kind of taking that goal line McKinnon role almost, where get the ball into his hands on short yardage or scheme him to get the ball with a quick throw, and then he goes and runs it in, which is what they're doing with McKinnon.
Yeah. But also Pacheco's been able to punch the ball in. I mean, he's had 3 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. He had a gap of time without touchdowns there in the rushing wise, but he had a bunch earlier on in the season. I think this offense is going to have to change a little bit because they're just not putting up the points they were in the past couple seasons with Bieniemy. And I'm not saying it was his play calling that did it, but they just have to use the assets they have. And besides Rashee Rice,
see the offense in Washington, not their fault. They can't stop anyone.
Yeah, it's a good point. Anyway, we're not starting the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I'd like to wait and see if they can bring back the gusto that they had the past couple weeks before this 2 weeks of downplay from their team. Speaking of downplay, let's talk about the LA Chargers offense. And their play is very down.
We have Keenan Allen.
This is the fact that we have to put a caution next to Eckler and Herbert after what these guys have done their past couple seasons in a career. I mean, Austin Eckler having 38 touchdowns in 2 seasons, that's historical. Justin Herbert has had rookie, some of the best numbers in his first 3 seasons of a career. Throw that all away. It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't. Like, what have you done for me lately type situation here?
Again, if you're, we said this, with Stephon Diggs. This is our second big, I'm borderline sit Eckler, not caution. Like, I think at this point you have to. Like, he had 17 touches last week and had 3 fantasy points.
Yeah, it was brutal.
17 touches.
But here, let me defend my boy here.
I mean, listen, I like Eckler. I like him. But you can't defend that.
No, but what I can defend, okay, in the games that he has been successful, Miami early in the season was a bad rush defense. We saw that. They are now since a good rush defense. But he was RB3 week 1. All right. Then he hurt his ankle and he missed until the bye week in week 6. But he was running back 32 and 37 against Dallas and Kansas City. Two good rush defenses now and at that time too. Then he comes in, he's running back 7, 4, and 5 against Chicago, bad rush defense. Jets, not so great fantasy rush defense. And then Detroit, who was pretty good, he actually had one of his better rushing days out of it, but he caught 4 for 48 and he had a touchdown. Then he goes back and faces Green Bay, which was the weird odd one where he should have done well against them. He did. He had 10 for 64, 6.4 yards per carry, but they just didn't do anything with him. They turned the ball over. They stopped running the ball. And then you go back against Baltimore, New England, back-to-back weeks who have shut down running backs. So, like, yes, he's been playing bad, but they've also been playing tough defenses, and nobody was complaining how bad he was in weeks 8, 9, and 10 when he was running back 7, 4, and 5. That's the thing to me and Brandon Staley talking about switching up and giving people other opportunities. That scares me as an Austin Eckler owner, and in giving advice for Austin Eckler starts here. But he's facing Denver, Vegas, Buffalo, Denver again. Those 4 games are some of the worst teams against running backs and giving up yards to the running back. I expect a bounce back for this team, and they're another team that is in a must-win situation. They lose, and they're pretty much out of the playoffs now. Even if they win, they may not even get in. But that's my defense in Austin Eckler for those people who are debating on whether to start him or not. The games that this offense should run well against the defense. Yeah, that's a good point. But the games that they're supposed to do well against a bad rush defense, he has done well against. And Green Bay is the only one that was weird, and he had a fumble there, and they also just stopped giving him the ball after 10 carries.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say. I mean, you're starting Keenan Allen because the guy is like ageless at this point. Him and Mike Evans, the 2 guys, are showing these young receivers how to play football. Let's just say that. How to run routes. And then Quentin Johnson.
No one else there. You're getting the receptions, you're getting the targets, and like you're converting on it. Like the guy's a freak this year. Well,
he gets open. I mean, he's one of the best route runners in the game, period. So He gets that separation. Do you like Gerald Everett? I like him as a start here. I mean, he's pretty much the number 2 pass catcher, like successful pass catcher there.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this when we were going through, our starts and sits. No. Short answer, okay. No, I don't.
Not as a streamer.
Not as a streamer. I think the Broncos have been decent enough against the pass, and we've seen in games where they will just hyper target Keenan Allen, and it doesn't matter if they only have 1 pass catcher.
Now, well, I guess let's talk about this because a lot of experts out there do have Gerald Everett as a streaming tight end, I believe they have him as a top 12 tight end here. Do you have someone like, here's a perfect example. Do you have Njoku over him or not?
No.
Do you have Cole Kmet over him?
Yes.
Dallas Goedert?
No.
Okay. So I'm naming a couple guys that are ranked over him.
I want to see what Goddard is.
Yeah. So the past 2 weeks, he's had 9 targets, 8 catches for a total of just under 90 yards, and he's had 1 touchdown. And he had the touchdown against Baltimore. Denver is actually one of the worst teams to play against the tight end. I think they are statistically the worst, but his lines are terrible. He's got an over under 28.5 yards and 3.5 receptions. He has not had more than 5 targets since week 3 in Minnesota when he went 6 for 6 for only 30 yards. So you're right. I mean, it's a tough one because Donald Parham is still there, but I still like him as a streamable option, because he is targeted and used in the red zone a lot.
Yeah. So is Parham.
Yeah, it's true.
So is Keenan Allen.
So I guess we get
the
down.
fact that they can't score touchdowns.
That's the number one. That's the number one. Well, let's move on to the Broncos team here and talk about their opponent this week. By the way, we're not starting at the Chargers defense either against the Broncos. So Russell Wilson here is a start against this struggling Chargers. Even though their defense shut down New England last week, it was New England. And yeah, well, New England wasn't shut down by Pittsburgh, but come on. New England sucked against the Chargers. You're starting Javonte Williams and you're starting Cortland Sutton. I don't love the way this offense runs. They're just get it done type of offense. They're not pretty, and they're not doing it with high volume yardage. Like Russell Wilson is winning games with like 3 touchdowns and under 200 yards passing.
Yep.
Like that doesn't help you for your passing offense, because you look at Cortland Sutton may get a touchdown, Javonte may get a touchdown, and then maybe Russell Wilson runs one in, and Jerry Jeudy ends with 30 yards. Marvin Mims ends with 19 yards. I mean, that's the tough part about this offense right now.
Yeah. I mean, P. Ryan's going to be out for this game, so I like, potentially Jaleel McLaughlin in this game as a pass catcher out of the backfield, maybe getting one in. But they score in weird ways. Like, last week, Troutman gets a touchdown. Cortland Sutton seems to be the most consistent guy in this offense, which is why we like him. But Jerry Jeudy's had on and off games. Jerry Jeudy, we thought he was going to come in and be the guy this year. At this point, he's on the trade block for next year, I would think, going into his last year.
They've been trying to trade him.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to get a second round pick for him at this point.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, you're starting Cortland Sutton. I think that Russ, even though he's only throwing 250, he can have the 3 touchdown game. He's been effective. We've seen the Russ of old where he's getting 20, 30 yards rushing. So he's getting some nice points just from that. So I don't care that he's throwing for 200, 250 if he's getting 30 yards rushing.
Yeah. Who do you like him above in some of those quarterbacks that are ranked up high?
I mean, no one. I don't like him
enough to start him over.
Enough to start him over. I wouldn't start him over Mahomes, Hurts,
Goff.
Goff. I'm starting Goff.
Fields.
No, I'm starting Fields over him. Even though Fields
I would start him over Herbert in this game.
I'm starting him over Herbert. Yeah,
I start him over Herbert. I'd start him over Dobbs, because I would, but that's because I feel like Russ has been doing it with consistency.
Yeah, I just in terms of matchup, Dobbs has a much better matchup, and Dobbs only needs to just drop it off to a guy and let him do the rest.
All right. Real quick, Denver's defense here has been pretty good. Patrick Surtain is back fully at practice. He was out at the beginning of the week, so that helps them out here. I still don't like them because I just think the Chargers here are going to have to do something. This is one of those Buffalo Bills game situation. It's a must win for them.
Yep.
And there's better streaming options out there. Like we said before, Packers, you got out there. You could throw the Dolphins defense. Somebody probably already owns them there. Colts defense you could throw out there. Hell, you could throw the Jets defense against the Texans in this one too, or the Texans against the Jets, and you'll be happy with the turnout there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cowboys-Eagles real quick. We don't have to go in too much depth here. This is going to be a big one to watch because this will help with the NFC East standings. You're starting pretty much all your Cowboys. We do have a caution on Tony Pollard because the Eagles have been good against the run. Now, Pollard is coming out the backfield for pass catching. Rico Dowdle's been dealing with an ankle injury. So Pollard's still going to get volume there. But look for Dak to pass downfield a little bit more. Last game against them, Jake Ferguson had 90 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee's going to get his. We love Brandon Cooks and the way he's playing. And to me, the Cowboys defense, yes, they can give up points, but they are great with takeaways. They're great with scoring points, and they've been pretty good overall. And I think they're going to try and prove something this week.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, listen, if you have another option, if you have the Packers and the Cowboys, I would start the Packers over the Cowboys. this week. So if you have other options, go and play them. I would play the Browns over them. I would play
Dolphins if you happen to pick up the
Dolphins.
Dolphins and had them. I agree. It's not a perfect setup.
And it's not a great matchup, but like I'm not gonna go and drop a premier player to go and pick up a defense to not play Dallas, right? Like this isn't a matchup that scares me enough where I'm just like, all right, well I can't play Dallas.
Yeah, get your points and move on.
They get after the quarterback, they create turnovers, they score off those turnovers. This is a defense that you do want to play just based on that. On the other side, that's not really the case, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about the Eagles then. We are starting Jalen Hurts. Even though we like this Cowboys defense, you're starting Hurts because he's got the low floor like we talk about a lot of these other guys. DeAndre Swift is a caution. I like him more as a sit. I think Gainwell ends up getting into here. I think the Cowboys have been stuffing this rush defense pretty well and keeping people out of the end zone. I think they're going to make Jalen Hurts throw, which is why we like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and even Goddard with caution coming back off his injury.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. You're going to start. You're not sitting Smith. You're not sitting A.J. Brown. And with Goddard, yeah, like we just talked about with the tight end position, like I'd want to wait and see. Like I've made it 4 weeks without having to play. If I'm a Goddard owner, right, I've made it 4 weeks without having to play him in a position where like, am I going to play him?
You may have somebody anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to. Exactly. Like, am I going to play him his first week back in a tough matchup in a game that I might need to win? I'm probably not going to, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably go with someone else in a better matchup.
Yeah, I'm with you there because you probably pick somebody else up that could do it. But I still have him ranked up there. I have him neck and neck almost with Njoku because I just don't like Njoku's situation right now. And to me, Dallas Goedert, I'd rather be part of this Eagles offense in what could be a higher scoring game in that situation there through the air. Let's move on to, well, we got two matchups left here. Let's talk about the Titans-Dolphins here. Let's talk about the Titans, and we'll make it quick because we're saying start Derrick Henry and don't worry about anything else. We thought about Tajay Spears a little bit, but like I said, Miami was bad against the rush earlier in the season, and they've since gotten better. Yeah. And Derrick Henry is a rush defense proof type of guy because he's going to get volume and he's going to run hard and he could fall into the end zone. Tajay Spears is not that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like Derrick Henry's looked good the past couple of weeks. He's been shut down against tougher rush defenses. And he's been hit in the backfield a lot. But this is a game where they're going to have to feature him. The Dolphins are they're a good passing defense. And so I don't think Will Levis, I don't trust D-Hop enough. He's been so wildly inconsistent this year. He's truly boom or bust. And it's tough to start him in a position where I need to win. This is a position where like Alec Pierce I like over him.
Yep. Man, I can't believe D-Hop goes to the Titans and didn't stay with Arizona. Like he would be fed in Arizona right now.
I mean, there was no Kyler there for the first,
he still would have been fed by Dobbs. Like I don't know. Whatever. It's not my career.
Thankfully, he didn't go to the Jets.
Yeah, it's a good point. But here's the thing: you look at tough rush defenses this season. He's had one that he faltered, and he's actually done worse against good rushing defenses at times. His worst games have been against like Jacksonville and Indianapolis, who have been bad against the run. But they probably schemed him. Versus Tampa Bay, tough against the run. He was running back 47. Cleveland running back 57. But New Orleans, good against the run. He was running back 15. Atlanta, good against the run. He was running back 15. Baltimore, he was running back 4. So like he can do it. That's why we were saying start him. Like he's matchup proof to a point. It could get schemed against. He could end up being a dud for you in a week, but you're not sitting him based on a matchup here. So let's move on to the Dolphins because it's the opposite. We're starting everybody here except the tight end, obviously. But here's the thing about the Dolphins.
It's really simple. The reason you've gotten to the point you are in the season is because you've had one of these guys on your team and in your lineup. Like,
well, maybe not Waddle.
Maybe not Waddle. I mean, I was just going to say, if anything, you're sitting Waddle because there's better options out there that are doing more. Because Tyreek Hill is going to go for 215 and go 2,000 yards this season, and he's going to crush that record. You're starting to, you're starting Mozart, you're starting A-Chain, and you're starting to Freak. Like, and you're going to start this defense. Very good matchup.
It boggles my mind as a Waddle owner and just a football fan that Tyreek Hill is not bracketed ever.
They
like
do.
people like to play zone coverage against this team and they get fucking destroyed. Excuse my language. Destroyed by Tyreek Hill in this
anyway. These videos are not meant for kids anyway.
That's a good point.
So,
but anyway, we're starting everybody here. We still like Waddle here too. Anyway, because his opportunities, he could get himself down the road for 85. He could get in the end zone. He's already had a couple over 100-yard games this season. It just isn't the season like last year, and so obviously he wasn't worth his draft stock and draft capital. But this is the game right here in a must-win situation.
It really sucks if we're now 14 weeks in the season and you had to start him every week of the year, thinking things are going to turn around. It might be the reason that you're in 10th place, but that's just me.
Oh, it could be the reason that I lost Mike Williams. I had Deontay Johnson out with a hamstring injury for so long as my other wide receivers. Romeo Doubs was my next wide receiver in there, and I did have to start him because Addison was playing with Jefferson, and then I started playing Addison, and then Doubs started when Watson came back. Listen, there was no good.
Disappointing.
Oh, I lost Kirk Cousins. I had Justin Fields dislocated his thumb. I lost Mark Andrews. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not Jalen Waddle's fault here.
It's one of those seasons. It's one of those seasons.
I personally would rather have Jalen Waddle doing what he's doing than have him put up like 30 points every week and me still lose.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, at least you could have traded him and made your team better.
Oh, could I? Because I couldn't trade a single person in this league except for Dameon Pierce.
That's a whole different story, John.
Anyway, let's move on to the Giants-Packers. Last game, the Monday night slate here. And New York Giants, same situation kind of as the Titans here. You are just playing Saquon Barkley. The Packers have been bad against the run. That's their weakness. But I think in a situation here where they know Saquon Barkley is their only strength, I think they're going to find a way to scheme against the run here and shut down a team completely. I mean, Saquon could still break a home run here and there. He could still finish up with like 80, 90 all-purpose yards. But I'm not seeing the Giants score too many points that are not going through a goalpost.
Right.
And then Packers. Packers, not quite the opposite. You're starting Love. You're starting Jones with the caveat that if he goes, you're starting him. And A.J. Dillon's still a sleeper even if Jones goes because who knows what his snap percentage is going to be because Jones is coming off a nasty-looking knee injury that I'm surprised he's still healthy and playing after that. It was
Quadzilla,
gross.
Man. Quadzilla.
Yeah. But A.J. Dillon is on the injury report too, so keep an eye out for the two of them on Saturday because since it's a Monday night game, you're not going to get the final injury report until tomorrow or today when this is dropping when you're watching it. Christian Watson's a sit for us. Even if he does go, it's a hamstring. It's a soft tissue injury.
He hasn't practiced all week. He's not going.
Yeah, it's a soft tissue injury. You know for wide receivers how quick it is. It's one step and it's gone again. We like Dobbs and we like Jaden Reed. Those are the two that we would fire up. The Giants are one of the worst against the pass, plain and simple. Maybe Jordan Love gets pulled early and these guys get pulled early, but you got to think one of these guys is going to find the end zone. And Romeo Doubs is top 10 in the league in touchdowns. He's 11th overall in red zone targets. So you like him. And
one of those games that like that. Let me like finish. We'll finish this whole segment, the whole thing off. This just feels like one of those games where the Packers beat Kansas City last week and are going to lose to the Giants this week.
I know.
It seems like one of those weeks, and this is like one of those classic matchups. The classic uniforms, the original teams. Like, there's always going to be those that close like fighting out. You think of the Eli Manning versus Rodgers games and the playoff games, and I don't know.
Listen,
I still don't start anyone. I don't trust it enough.
No.
I don't start anyone for the Giants, but I could see them coming out, maybe winning this game.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Flat.
It's going to be cold in New York or New Jersey, I should say, where the field is. I think advantage Packers for having to play in the cold already, the bitter cold. But I mean, you're right. It's scary to play a team like the Giants that have nothing to lose. Sometimes, I mean, there's a reason why they have 4 wins now. Unfortunately, they do, but they do. So,
Yeah.
And then you're going to start the Green Bay Packers defense, because I think if the Giants do end up doing what Chris is saying, it's not going to be by a lot of points. It's going to be a defensive game.
Ugly game.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's the totals slate for Week 14. That's your Sunday 1 o'clocks, 4 o'clocks, and that's your prime time Sunday night and doubleheader Monday night.
We got your 1 o'clocks. We got your 4 o'clocks. We got your Sunday nights and your Monday nights.
So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you get not only this drop in the future, you get the rest, because it is playoff time and we need to get you the information you need to make it not only through the playoffs. And if you've been with us and we got you there, don't drop us yet, because we're going to give you the information you need to take home a trophy like you see over top of Chris's shoulder.
I got you one of those.
So as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.